Try This at Home is an AxFi Entertainment Group production, filmed on the mall in Kalamazoo, Michigan, at Public Media Network Studios in the Epic Center.
I woke up this morning, I could feel it was on the sun. The sunshine is golden red, a bluebird, blue sky. Lord, hoping it's right on time. You wait for me. Oh yeah, I can feel it alright. I can feel it alright. This ain't no back home. 56K internet and core Wi-Fi. It's the same old tune from long, long ago. So go try this at home. Try this at home. Try this at home. Try this at home.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Try This at Home. I am Damien Faust, joined by my co-hosts, Trevor Penn, a.k.a. S. Freebird, and Michael Queen.
Howdy. Golf clap. Golf clap.
So this week we are talking about an introduction into audio recording, actually. So we're going to be covering a couple of things, just a high-level overview. To kick us off, Michael Queen is going to talk about interfaces, because this, believe it or not, this was an AEG hot topic last night.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing in the blue corner, weighing in at 4 grams.
Okay. Let's hash this out right now. Because here's what I think the problem is, right? You and I both have a severe adult ADD, and that causes us to go
He likes
down.
to put me in the bus with him when it's a short bus. I don't appreciate that.
That causes us to. That's insensitive. So that causes us to go down a tangent where we're arguing semantics, pretty much.
You were splitting hairs.
Yeah, exactly. So
It was a minor disagreement of some consequence, for sure, right?
It would seem to be consequential to some.
So
The debate
so
was
Trevor's
so hot,
position.
I had to eat ice cream.
Don't
to
you
cool
dare
off.
state my position. No. How about you state your own? Because you definitely
Okay,
are going to state
my
mine.
position is that interfaces are separate things, even when they're packaged in something else, like a soundboard that also has an interface in it. Even so, interfaces are still a separate thing. It's as far as digital recording goes, because that's your recorder. That's how you get the sound into the computer. And yes, there are a great deal of soundboards out there that do have interfaces in them, and that is a smart way to go if you can get something like the Rodecaster Pro that we have here on the desk, or Trevor's Behringer XR.
That
being said,
here goes the perfect analogy.
let me finish.
Okay, please continue.
That being said, it does not mean that there are still not a great deal of really great boards that are not also interfaces that are still widely used. They're manufactured. They're sold all the time. And he's acting like, oh, that's obsolete old stuff. And nobody does it that way anymore.
Not what I said. Now, for all of our viewers out
Which
there,
I do, by the way.
For all of our
I
viewers
do it
out
that
there,
way.
I want us to all come to the same conclusion. He said interfaces are different, even if they are inside the same packaging. This was after like 30 minutes of driving home the point that this was an entire episode's worth of information, but we won't stay there.
No,
we won't go there.
No,
but
it wasn't.
But
It
that
could be,
same
but it doesn't
analogy,
need to be.
same analogy equals to this. That's like me being like, yo, I got a camera, and because it's got a piece of glass in the viewfinder and a piece of glass in the lens, being like, yo, no, but like, glass is different though. Even if you package it in the same thing, even though you got glass in the viewfinder and glass in the lens,
It's not. That's a false
even
comparison.
Though what we're talking about is using the camera as a camera. Where
That is a false comparison. A better comparison would be
in the lens.
A better comparison would be.
It's in there, bro.
No, a better.
That's a part of the design.
Let me say that. Hold on. That's a false comparison. A better comparison would be is if you have a camera, and the camera also has microphone inputs and can record audio, and saying that they're two completely separate things because one records audio, the other records video. That's a better comparison in this case.
I'm going to take
But
the
at the end of the
mic
day,
here.
they're still the case.
For the sake of our viewers and me, frankly, as the innocent bystander in this debate, who just didn't have a position, really. I was
Right.
just...
I wish you would have taken the light side with
I'm not taking
the rest of us.
I'm
the
not
force.
taking any
We're
side
using the force.
here. We're going to go ahead and just segue into the difference between analog and digital signals on said interface.
Yes, because you do want to talk about that before you actually talk about any sort of specific interface. So now that we've talked about signal flow and we've gotten into boards and microphones, we've covered all that kind of stuff, it's a good idea to talk about recording itself, the art of recording, and how we're actually going to be capturing our sound. And of course, as you know, back in the day, we had all these old versions of it. What was that kind of reel thing that they used to have? It was like
Real tape machine.
No, not the reel to reels, like the cylinders, like one of those original things with the big megaphone on it.
Oh, man.
Anyway, let's move a little bit
We don't know.
forward. I used to press it on wax. That's just another type of a transducer that we were talking about, right? Meaning that on, like, for instance, a record, when they're recording, they have this needle that's moving and it's cutting grooves into that wax. And then they copy that and press it. And then when you're playing it back, it's the same idea, only in reverse. There's still a needle, but now those grooves are moving that needle around, mechanical motion, being transduced into electrical motion, which then is, of course, pushing that suspended diaphragm, just like a microphone and just like a speaker. And in this case, now it's pushing and turning it back into acoustical energy. And that's how we initially recorded. We moved on to tape recordings, of course, which everything about recording has some sort of inherent artifacts and flaws in the storage media itself. For instance, when we're talking about vinyl, you get those pops and clicks. And sometimes, though, we like that, right? Sometimes we intentionally put that in, even though we didn't record on...
well, it's also to talk about the timbre that is created by the sound, right? The one true definition about wax is high frequencies do not reproduce as well as easily on wax, which is why you didn't really have much high end on original old home stereo record players, because there was no need for it. There were no high frequencies captured, or not many captured in the wax itself, and nor that were going to be able to be reproduced back off. And that's simply by the nature of what wax is as a material. It does not resonate high frequencies well, or as well, right? So now when you change the medium and you get it to some form of a digital medium, or you go to something like even the little silicate that was inside of the plastic of CDs, the material itself is actually something that resonates highest frequencies better, which is why you had high fidelity, easier to get high frequency, high quality, high frequencies on that type of medium. It's just by the medium itself, just the nature of the material itself, even more so than just some of the mechanical clicks that came from popping and the dust and things that might have settled on it, or from your recorder's needle. It's got a dull needle or things like that. We even have inherent actual sound quality things literally within the material.
Yeah, and they are a flaw in the storage media itself, but they've become one of those characteristic things that sometimes we like to put in there for a creative reason. Because
flaws is such a harsh word. Is it a flaw, or is it a beautiful attribute? I don't.
Okay, yeah, that's actually that's a good point.
But here's the thing. I think it's a flaw, because
now he's got a stance. The man without a stance.
I do have a stance on this one. It's a flaw because I prescribe to the viewpoint that in order for things to be perfect, they have to be flawed, right?
Ooh, I like that.
That is such a good argument.
So,
such a good poetic
tape
argument.
hiss, for instance.
Perfection needs to be imperfect.
So
I know that it sounds foolish, but it's true. Noel Gallagher, right there.
So on that note, we also got into the world of recording on magnetic tape, and that was able to capture analog sounds a lot better when we were recording in the analog world, both back in those days. And the reason why is because you actually have these complex frequencies. All sound is a complex wave of one type or another, and the polarity of the magnets, what magnetic tape was, it was actually, they're really little tiny microscopic magnets inside of all of these.
You're talking about cassette tapes, right?
Yeah, cassette tapes, reel-to-reel tapes, doesn't matter. It was the same concept.
These are all on magnetic strip or magnetic film.
And so therefore, when you're speaking into the microphone, it's transducing into electric energy, and then that electric energy is, of course, being induced into the magnets, polarizing these unpolarized magnets. And the magnets that aren't yet polarized goes equal frequency, equal
noise,
amplitude across frequencies. That's white noise. That's our tape hiss. And sometimes we like to put that in. If we want some sort of vintage feel to our recording, you can kind of put tape hiss in there on purpose. You don't have to record on tape because that is ridiculous. There's no reason to do that anymore. There are some people that still like to record on reel-to-reel tape, and I'm saying go for it, but I'm not editing in it at all.
I won't. Right. I'm not going to edit that.
Because you literally had to cut with scissors and paste it all together.
A very special kind of glue that and getting it so that the tape head reader will match up. And there are no back edits. If you snip wrong, you snipped wrong.
Yep.
And a magnetic tape is very expensive.
That's a skill set. That's a
skill set that was great, but not necessary anymore.
If you want that, you can still get it. And I think that there is a reason to record on cassette still for artistic purposes, right? You're not doing it to make the highest quality, right? You're deliberately doing something lo-fi, which is how like a lot of lo-fi, music specifically, it means that, right? It's deliberately not as digitally perfect.
But I would still probably lean closer towards what Queen alluded to at this day and age and this stage. Why would I still want to go through the process of recording on tape if I can just record perfectly high fidelity audio, find me a cheaper free plug-in and just add the little things that the characteristics that make
there is one
like
and only one good reason to at least record still on audio, and it really isn't a good reason if you think about it, and that is when people record on tape, since tape costs, and you can't just I'll just Command Z that and do it again real quick, then hopefully your performers will show up rehearsed, and they tend to play better because they're on the spot.
Oh, well, that's
which was the case back in the day. Very hopeful.
If it doesn't, you just blew tape. Is what you did.
If you put it on the tape, if they're paying for it, it's like it's your dollar, whatever. And you should still show up rehearsed.
This is also a really good discussion in why the medium evolved to digital and why so many artists have embraced it is because there's an inherent space you need to take up with tape, right?
Yep.
And there's also an inherent cost of more because
of storage.
I mean, it's not just that. Like with specifically magnetic strip tape, when you come down to storing it, there were inherent risks that
bleed
were
through,
not foreseen. Well, not even just bleed through; they weren't foreseen in the thought of the medium.
Yeah.
So now you've got this medium that is stored volume by specifically displacing small fragments of magnets.
Shout out.
That means anytime you bring anything magnetic near or around this of too strong of a strength, you have just beeped everything, right? I'm just going to beat myself up, but you messed it all up, right? It's shot. So you've got now this storage restriction.
Shout out to our analog pioneers who did all of this.
Shout out for real. I mean, those guys were serious masters. I mean,
for real. Like, and like the amount of attention to detail you had to pay to get it right. Oh my goodness.
And
so here's the philosophical question. Who do you thank more? Do you thank the aces who are the ones who were doing this correctly and basically people were mimicking the system of operations they were doing to create like, hey, they're doing it right. This is how we need to snip and do it. And then they turn that into a digital replication. Do we thank that person or do we thank really all the crappy audio engineers who messed up so many times and caused so much tape for so many audio houses that they went and sought out the people doing it right so they could mimic it and learn it?
Maybe a little bit of both.
A
little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
I agree. The answer is definitely both. You didn't know that you had the need until you did, right? And then when you find out that you do, the people that you
go to the best of the source.
Well, when a lot of studios were moving over to digital, there was one studio that just stayed analog for a very long time and
deliberately.
And that was a studio. What was it?
Probably a marketing
Studio City, the one where like Nirvana recorded.
Yeah.
And, like, everybody, hold on, I'll look it up. Dave Grohl did a thing on it.
Yeah, was it in? I know the studio you're talking about now. There's a couple of.
It's such a simple name, and now I'm like dumb because I can't believe I can't remember the name of this.
Yeah.
Recording studio. I don't know. I can't Google today.
Your Google foos whack.
Google
Sound City Studios.
Yeah.
In Los Angeles, and they had this magical room. This room just sounded perfect for recording in, and they recorded on analog reel-to-reel tape. And when they tried to move to digital, it just wasn't the same anymore. But this was in the early days. They, of course, eventually did incorporate digital a lot, but they still, even till right when they shut down, which was only like, 5-6 years ago, they still had reel-to-reel tape machines in there, and they still had the capability, and were at least tracking on tape a lot.
You know what's blown my mind is I don't know if you guys follow it much.
It's part of
but
their
you will
characteristic
find,
sound.
A lot of these, I've been noticing a lot of the Instagram influencers, TikTok influencers who are making these videos of them, quote unquote, right, playing their instrument or doing their thing while in the video. A lot of them have a lot of this old vintage gear running in the background as though it has anything to do with what's happening. And I'm not against the fact, I just know that it doesn't. But it's fantastic that like you're seeing this gear resurface, but not in any functional way. It's literally ornamental. It's like a lawn ornament before your wall or for your background. And they've got tape running on this thing. I'm like,
so here's while we're on the subject of interfaces, I'm going to shout out one of our co-creators, Alanka, and was, showing me some things that they were doing deliberately analog for their process of recording things. And they had a Tascam with the cassette in it. And that was the first thing that I started recording demos on.
Do they have one now?
They do.
I would love to see what that is. My first recorder was a Tascam 644. It was the last great generation of home studio tape recorders and a soundboard.
I don't even know what the
it was
name
a 4-track multi-recorder.
The first recorder I ever recorded on, I was in kindergarten, and I just remember it was long and rectangular like my tablet, but skinnier, and it had a handle on it, and you put the tape in on the handle side.
Yeah, my mom had one of them.
You had like pause, play, record, whatever. I mean,
me and my sister used to do radio stations on that.
Man.
Little skits.
I mean, technically, I recorded a bunch of stuff when I was like a little bitty kid on like a little microphone, and it had just a little record thing. But my actual, first recording demo experience when I was a teenager was on those Tascams with me and a friend. We'd have a line in that had a mic on the guitar, which was like usually a microphone next to my acoustic guitar. Guitar. And then he had a microphone for his voice, and we would just hit record, and this is the demo for the song that we would show the rest of the band, and then turn it into a full song.
I remember pricing and wanting an analog recorder of any track count starting out, and long story short, going on that search, learning from analog to the developments in digital recorders and interfaces, and actually the Inbox with Pro Tools, the original, like I want to say like the Inbox 2, like we're talking old, was the first actual recording interface of like by the time I was starting my professional journey. It was like that was the first one. I got the Inbox 2, but before that, we got home boom boxes where we actually so that it would reverse record back onto blank tape.
Remember you'd put actual tape on those little tabs at the top of the cassette, and then you could record on it.
You could do some stuff. We used to.
That was cool stuff.
We had a bunch of different recording devices.
So
flashbacks to the analog world, man.
Right?
Yeah, we're old
people. So
man.
manipulable, the one thing about the digital age is you cannot manipulate anything, right?
You're so spoiled in the digital age, for real.
Yeah.
And in a good way. I'm not mad about people who are learning and embracing that. The kind of art that's coming out from people embracing the digital tech, I love to hear it.
And it's always amazing too. I mean, look at.
Always amazing is a hard
What's
statement.
his name? Bill Burham. He did that entire thing right out of his house on just a bunch of gear that he had. And that Netflix.
I will give him credit because he does quality work.
Bo Burnham, yeah. What did I call him? Bill?
You called him Bill.
That was dumb.
He's trying to mix Bill Burr and Bo Burnham.
I kind of do in my head, even though they look nothing alike.
Exactly.
I think you could push them into just one super comedian.
I think he wants to see a Bill Burnham singing about black people's magical lotion. Is that the?
He does.
Is that the skit you're thinking in your brain? Is that how we're feeling?
Hey man, that's how I learned that I should start moisturizing my skin from that skit, no less. He's sitting there doing that thing. He was like, "Oh look, you get ashy," and I was like, "No, I know. Oh my god, I do."
It's hard to see white on white, man. It's just it's hard to see white. I get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I lie, but I think I could understand.
So,
that's
audio. Okay, so even in the old school analog recording days, there were certain types of audio issues that happen that we still deal with in the digital world, and one of those is something called aliasing. And you can actually still see aliasing issues in video just as much as you can with audio. In fact, if you look for aliases,
like the TV show, what's an alias? Tell me about it.
Well, it's a frequency that's there out on the output of the recording that wasn't there on the input of the recording. And I've got a video here to show a perfect example of that in the video world, and the audio world works very similar. I guess I should have pulled up, found some video of that example.
Well,
but if we can switch over to there we go. All right, check this out.
Whoa,
that's too loud.
loud.
We're going to do that because we don't need any volume to that at all. So watch what's happening here with the camera. I'm going to skip ahead. We're not going to watch the whole thing. But as you see, it's just a propeller spinning. But as it starts getting faster, it looks like it's slowing down or spinning in the opposite direction. And as it speeds up, I mean, I'm sure you've seen this when you're looking at a fan all the time anyway. When you have two different frequencies that are happening at the same time, if they're overlapping in some way, it's going to cause aliasing, just like that. Wasn't that cool?
Yeah.
And the reason why this is happening is because there's a frequency to the rate at which that propeller is spinning. That one was cool right there. And there's also a frequency to the video being captured. It's probably like 30 frames per second or something.
Right.
And as it keeps speeding up, we keep seeing different frequencies that are not there at the input of the recording that are now there at the output. And just watch this. They actually make the rate match, and then that's what happens. When the sample rate of the video recording is matching the rate at which that propeller is speeding, it kind of looks like it's just like hanging out there, not doing anything.
Right.
Pretty cool, huh? So how do we deal with that?
I don't know. Tell us.
Well, this guy named something Nyquist, what was his name? Harry Nyquist, I believe. He explained that this is happening. Not only did he discover and explain why this is happening, but how to get around it. You just simply make sure that your sample rate is at least twice as high as the highest frequency that you will be producing. So, for instance, that's why when we're recording, we typically do it in 4.1.
It is 44.1 hertz, which stands for 44,100 hertz as our rate.
Yeah, so that means that every time it's recording, it's capturing and sampling what this amplitude is at any given specific time. It does that.
It does that 44,100 times every second.
Right, exactly. And if you're playing like an instrument, as long as the highest frequency you play is half of that or less, you don't get alias frequencies.
And the reason why it became Red Book, right, because science of the times and has still yet to be disproven, is that the human hearing can't perceive, well, arguably cannot perceive anything beyond 20 hertz and 20,000. And it just so happened to be that as far as for technological limitations at the time or resources at the time, particularly 44,100 samples was good math for the machines, if that makes sense. It was good machine math, not necessarily like on paper math, but good machine math. And so then that became Red Book. That became our standard. Now you notice everything we do is in multiples of that, right? Film is actually, ironically, a little bit more samples. We do 48,000, right, or 48K.
Yeah, right.
Usually when we're doing audio for film, but we always do multiples of that. So now you hear 88.2 or 96, right, whatever. But that's what we're really dealing with in there.
And there's actually some interesting mechanical math, right, on why we tune at 440 too, and not
that's interesting. Yeah, but yeah, that's
a whole story.
yeah.
But like,
yeah.
Britain wanted to push it as 439, but science was like, yeah, that's a prime number. Don't do that. So they bumped it up to 440.
I can only imagine how many computer issues would have come from that one simple principle of math.
Audio engineering would be so difficult if we had that at 439.
I would probably not want to do this anymore.
If that would be the reason that stopped you, are weak-willed.
Right.
Probably,
artisans.
Okay, so we talked about sample rate. That's a really important part of both analog and digital recording. But there's something that is not a thing at all in analog recording that is very much important to understand in the digital world, and that is bit depth. Which, for instance, in analog, there is no quantization that needs to happen because it's not digital. It's all nice and smooth. Analog recording, analog input.
Quantization, right? Mm-hmm. We haven't used that word very much yet.
Well,
it is
it's
a
different
very common word that we use.
We will use it, more, it's not the same. It is the same meaning, but we're not talking about the same.
We're not talking about the exact same
process or same use of it here.
Like terminology-wise, people who are watching and trying to learn from this show, it's really important to know the difference of quantization.
I'll explain it right now. I got some pictures here for us too.
Right. Yeah. Very great.
Let me pull up my. There we go. All right, so this is a good example of both sample rate and bit depth. because here is our sample rate. This is where it samples
Thank
and
you,
holds
Personas.
the amplitude. Yes. So as you're recording and as the recorder, the interface is picking that up, it will sample and then hold. That's what this line is. That's when it's holding that sample. And it's sampling where the amplitude is. This curve here is showing you how it looks in the analog world. When you're polarizing magnets, that's not a problem. It can actually get these values in between here, these amplitude values in between here. But in the digital world, it has to sample and hold. And therefore, you also have your bit depth, and that is what determines how many quantized integers that you can choose from.
Minty, like pepperminty or spearmint?
How many quantized integers that you can choose from of amplitude. And the more you have, the more accurate that representation is going to be. The less you have, the more quantization or bit distortion you have. I'm sure you might have heard that, or you've certainly heard bit distortion on recordings. A lot of dubstep, a lot of glitch music uses it intentionally a lot. And that's what's happening. You're hearing quantization errors because the bit depth is being downsampled. And the reason why is because, well, when an analog signal's coming in, it can accurately represent anything in between these two values, but not at the bit depth in the digital world that this is set to. So it has to pick and choose and quantize it, round it up or round it down to the next nearest integer that it has in its
close
enough
coding
to.
or system or whatever, right?
Right,
There's
exactly.
limitations there. It's not continuous perfectly.
Now, in the digital world, there's also something called the counterintuitive distortion quality. And this is also related to bit depth errors as well.
Are we going to talk about dithering?
That's exactly what we're talking about next. Because what happens is, as in the analog world, as a signal gets stronger, we all know that as it gets stronger, it eventually starts to distort when it starts to get go past where its storage media or transmission media can represent it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
But in the digital world, it's for some reason in reverse. The quieter the signal gets, the more distorted it gets, and it's really nasty. It's even worse than just like a distorted signal in the analog world. Half the time, it's just this. It's awful.
The best explanation I've heard for that is because of the same math we do between 0 and 1.
Yeah. You know what?
why.
That's right.
It's like the smaller you get.
No, you're right.
Our computer speaks in zeros and ones, but because of that, it doesn't speak between 0 and 1. And so when you've got values that would in the computer math represent something between 0 and 1, your computer's almost beeped again, right? You know, it's what are you doing to me?
So in order to get around that, then all interfaces usually have something called a dither. And I found a good explanation from whatever this website. Oh, it's from Waves website, waves.com.
I love Waves. Waves is a great.
So what is dither?
Audio.
It's a form of low-level noise that is intentionally added to the digital audio file as it's rendered to a lower bit depth. The concept of dithering might seem counterintuitive, but it's an effective process. Dither noise actually masks what is called quantization distortion, which causes noise and artifacts in digital audio. Before we go into this blah, 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 okay, we're done there.
Yeah.
But that's a really good explanation, right?
And a shout out to Waves because they make
Shout out to
great
Waves.
stuff.
They make great
And
stuff.
also really affordable. Like
Really affordable. Sometimes they give it away free. Didn't they give away a whole bundle for free?
No, it
over
wasn't for
Christmas.
free.
No, they did.
Oh yeah.
I
they
forgot
did.
because I downloaded it and I totally forgot. It's on my computer. I can install. Dude, I got like a whole Waves bundle. You guys want it?
I'll
heck
take it.
yeah.
I'll definitely take it.
Definitely.
Yeah, they had this. You just went and signed up for a newsletter and they gave you like I think it was like silver for free. Or
That's
silver
crazy.
bundle.
That's
Yeah.
a bunch of great stuff.
It might not have been that. It wasn't like their highest level. Mercury.
nobody
No, it was
gives away
Waves
their
Mercury
highest.
maybe. I don't know. But I'll find it and I'll give it to you guys. Pretty good.
Not bad.
Yeah. Thanks, Waves.
Yeah, thanks, Waves. So that's
Shout
dithering, and that's a brief explanation of recording. And now that we've got that sound into our recorder, which in this case we're talking about the computer is our recorder. What do we do with it after that?
Well, we're going to have to find an interface.
No, we
what
don't.
I did there.
We already got. Okay. All right. Going back to interfaces. Going back to interfaces. If you don't have a soundboard that is also your audio interface, then you got to buy one. And there's plenty of really great ones. Personas. That was the website where I was looking. We were looking at those quantization
This guy actually
diagrams
thought
here.
I meant interfaces. That's not what I meant.
Personas makes a lot of good ones. I've used Presonus interfaces in the past. Western Sound Studios, I believe they have an Antelope.
I have a complete interface by Native.
That's a pretty good one. I also use the Scarlett SI. It's like an older kind of one.
Scarlett's great.
Scarlett Focusrite by Focusrite. Those are really good interfaces. And what that does is that's your sound card. That's pretty much your outboard sound card in this case, because it's what does the analog to digital audio conversion. That's what some people call it an interface. It's also known as an ADAT machine, ADAT, analog, digital analog transfer. What's the T? One of those.
I thought ADAT was for tape.
Well,
it's also for tape. If you're recording from tape and it's transferring it to a digital DAT machine, ADAT machine.
I'm literally Googling it.
So it's another transducer, right? It's transducing analog signals into a digital signal so you can get into your computer and do all kinds of cool digital stuff. And then also back again, because you can, of course, play your audio from your computer back out of that outboard sound card, that interface, that ADAT machine.
So that's not all. If you're trying to record on a computer,
right? Because it also gives you your discrete inputs.
Yes.
For instance, that board that I had that we were talking about, the Behringer, it does have an interface in it, but it's only a stereo bounce. So I only get two channels to record on discretely. And in our world now, we have the ability to multi-track, meaning we can record as many inputs we have. And so that's why I go with the Focusrite. And I also have an expansion. It's like a Behringer power amp that's connected with a digital optical input and output so that it sees up to 16 discrete separate channels. But yours, it's all built in, and its discrete channels are... How many you got on that one? Like 18?
Oh, I was about to say, I thought you were saying I thought you thought my board was sending it in two. Yep, it's 18.
Yeah.
It's got 18 discrete inputs aside from 6, 7.
So if you are using
aside from 8 discrete outputs.
So if you're using an interface that's not built into the board, then you would use your soundboard and patch each one of those channels into your interface, and that way you have signal flow and a mix board to mix your music and still multi-track it into your computer. I can do up to 16 on mine, on my setup. This one probably has, well, we already see 4. We know there's up to 6 because 1 and 2 is actually...
the stereo left.
Yeah.
It's more than that because you also have the USB out, and then there's also an aux out.
Are we talking about inputs or outputs at this point?
I'm sorry,
because at inputs you got
inputs.
You could call them 5, and the 5th one being the stereo aux input. You've really only got 5 inputs there, but then we've got a plethora of different outputs for what we're sending to based on what we're transferring to computer, transferring to another board or mixer machine, and then we have the outputs which we are actually hearing through our headphone mixes.
Yeah, sounds good.
It does. Yeah, so, and also, the other thing to note that is important that a lot of other audio interfaces do not always have is this has 4 headphone mixes on it. A lot of them only have 1. So another piece of equipment you need to get is a headphone amplifier to split that.
Oftentimes, yep, and you can find those so inexpensive.
Yeah, they're like $50 maybe.
Cheaper than that.
You can find.
Well, the thing is, the cheaper the price and the more headphone outputs, the lower quality per output.
That's true.
Just remember that. Not to say that you can't make it work, you can't get by with whatever, but just in general,
I think
the higher the number of outputs, the lower the price.
Mackie makes it. My headphone amplifier is a Mackie headphone amplifier that's for outputs, and it's around $50 and pretty good quality.
I've got a pile, and honestly,
I've got a couple of those same piles that you have.
Around 20 to 30.
The biggest shortcoming that you come around with them, right, as you can tell internally, they don't have distinct separation between ports. So technically, if you move something around, it could ground out another port next to it because it touched.
Speaking
the electronics, whatever. So like little things like that, like just having either a plastic or a non-conductive spacer.
No, I'm working on some way to fix that. I've got some cable spools. I'm going to build some custom cables so that you don't have to mess with those piles like that. For that, I'm building custom cables for those piles. I think in order to collapse that stereo signal to mono, so that you can just pop on some headphones and you're going to wiggle nothing. It's just going to be in both headphones each time.
Oh, that's
For tracking, that's perfect.
for this guy. I like mine stereo. I'm not giving up my stereo.
I want stereo too, but for tracking, it's not that important.
Yeah, that's you, guy.
All right, well then you can still be sent 2 different signals.
It depends on the musician.
I
that you're
want
working
I
with,
want my
too.
left ear to be the left ear.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I want my right ear to be the right ear. And that's it. And I don't want them crashed in mono, like ever. I didn't record it
tracking?
in mono because I don't even want it played back in mono, bro.
Yeah, if we're just trying to track a vocalist, though,
But I can just have
Yeah.
a stereo.
or even just a.
But I was gonna say
You don't need it. The
with the
important thing is
piles,
they
it's
just need to
not-
hear themselves while they're tracking.
But I'm saying, with the piles, it's not so much of a really big deal of having to finagle with that. It's just like you'll see, you can get it to operate as it's supposed to. But like that's the difference, right? Now, I don't know what maybe Mackey's, right? They've put something in there, and you don't really have to worry about that.
I don't
right?
know
Right.
specifically, yeah.
But no, I just mean, but something
It
like
was
that
actually-
normally
it's
you'll
actually
find. That's
also,
like the
I
little
think, a
type of
thing
things
with the
you'll run
Mackie
into
as well.
actually.
No, it's honestly a very standard thing that your headphone mixes for performance, whether it's in the studio or live, are always going to be mono. Even those floor like
lot of
when we're
times,
playing
yeah.
live,
I know my board has 6
monitors on
knobs,
floors.
bro. I know, and I still am going to use 2 of them.
well, that's because you can get away with it. But what if you got a band of 6 people and they all need separate headphone mixes? They're all going to need to take mono.
Guess what? I'm number 1, bro. The 5 of y'all can share a mix.
He's just stingy. He's a stingy audio engineer. That's why.
Yeah.
If it's a band of 6 people, it
And-
sounds like 3 of y'all are sharing 4 mixes or sharing a couple.
By the way,
mixes.
if you want that specific mix as an artist who is going to venues, you need to bring it because not everyone's going to have it.
That's true.
So true,
Yep.
man.
And a lot of times you're not even getting a mono mix. Sometimes you have to share a wedge with you and a buddy. And you don't get
Oftentimes
headphones.
you have to just share a wedge,
to
right?
share a
If
wedge.
you're not bringing the other apparatus, they provided a community apparatus. There is no personalized
Right.
anything when it comes to your
And the guitarists usually don't understand that if you need to hear yourself more, ask the house to give you more of yourself in this monitor.
Don't turn your amp
Don't
up.
touch. Once your sound guys got you set for the show, don't touch anything on that amp.
You know,
Unless
if
maybe
you
something's
really
speaking
want-
back and you need to cut something to get some feedback out. Do not turn your amp up. If you need to hear more, ask him to hear more in your monitor.
Here's the pro tip for band managers out there. If you can manage the situation, because you will create tension, you should always put your lead guitarist in the same monitor as your lead vocalist. Always. Because
Why is that?
Because the vocalist gets priority. And that lead guitar, I want my guitar louder, but you literally can't because that's the lead singer's monitor, and you have to have whatever the lead vocalist needs priority. It has to be
No,
more punctual than that single guitar sound, and therefore you can keep them on a leash. It's admitted they'll push it, but
Yeah.
you right. But
If
hey,
your
bro,
lead,
it's the
if your lead
vocalist.
guitarist is me, that's not going to work. But
Like I said, if you can manage the tension, because you're gonna create it. But
yeah,
it's-
you will, especially
put
when
them
you
in
have a
the-
lead guitarist who does know what they're doing and what they want in their mix separately from the lead vocalist.
But you gotta share the lead vocalist wedge. You can't, bro. It's a community wedge. What you gonna do, bro?
Well, sometimes everybody
you're
only
gonna
gets
house
one
the
or
lead
2
vocalist?
wedges.
I'm gonna get my own way.
Or I'm just going to bring my own headphone monitor mix. I got the cables for it and just tell them, hey, send this to me.
Or they're going to have to deal with the fact that my stage volume needs to be at a spot where I need to hear my guitars, because if they're a lot of times in the mixes for vocalists, as a lead guitarist who's played a lot of lead and doesn't do these other guitarist things, right? This is why I get my own. It's because
Listen closely, you guys.
I put in a lot of time, and Michael will attest to my signal flow on my guitar is very specifically dialed in. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And what are you dialing in for? Because we've talked about this before, like, right? I mean, we're dialing in our signal flow because there are what inherent issues when it comes like pedal board signal flow.
There's so
things
much
like that.
interference.
Exactly.
There's so much interference in your signal flow when you have all those analog pedals together. And I manage it with isolated power, and I have my own compression sustainer. I very specifically have my pedals in a row to deal with that. And I put in all the homework ahead of time.
So the $1 million
before I'm even
question:
mic'd.
does it matter what order of what pedals?
Yes.
When it comes to the noise we're battling. Thank you. I hope that you guys heard that. I hope you caught that. That is the true Jedi mind trick. I will.
Yeah, and also,
You know what I'm saying?
if you're a guitarist wondering where you should put your compressor and your chain, you should probably just get an extra because it's good before and after.
I was
really
gonna
is,
say
yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Yep.
it is.
You're-
It is.
as
You can have 2
processing those
compressors,
dynamics.
it's fine, but I usually put it first. I only have 1 compressor, and it compresses my dry signal.
That makes sense.
But and if you're sending that signal somewhere, then they're usually going to compress you, so that's okay. But if you're not, I personally prefer
Tangent.
Like tame those
beginning-
transients on the
beginning
way
for
into
sure.
all the rest of the gain stages.
Exactly.
Good practice.
But then at the same time, if you're gonna if you've got a bunch, of not even just gain stages, if you've got a bunch of noise, right? You got a bunch of circuit loops you're adding into the signal chain. You should have, like, the higher that number up, the more and more I'm like, you need to have a compressor on the end. Like, if it's a few, you can probably get away with it. I mean, you may have some fluctuations, but you can usually battle them, mitigate them with fader movements. It's not too inconvenient. It's whatever. When you start adding more and more circuit loops to that chain, it's just a certain point you're like, compress at the beginning and
Well,
you need a second one at the
and
end.
to
Find somebody
do
to
to do
see.
what I like, I don't have a compressor at the end of my chain, and
Mm-hmm.
the reason that I'm able to get away with that with so many analog pedals, especially delay, is because everything that has a gain stage on my pedal board has isolated power.
But now, do you not? Is there not any form of compressor within your amp? Because you got a really high grade like head or
No, I have a Hot Rod Deluxe Fender, and I have.
I thought it was doing some compressing in the amp, so you wouldn't. But you're not necessarily running all of your pedals all at the same time.
No.
That's what I mean.
Right.
When we've got a signal
My
chain, not that it's just added in, but like they're actually like active. There's
The-
a certain number where
The
you
only
you want
pedal
another
that
compressor.
stays on my pedal board is the compression pedal. It's a compression sustainer, and that's the only one that I do not turn off. All the other, and I got a spaceship. I'm not going to go through all of them. we can do a whole episode on my pedal board.
That is
promise.
the truth.
But the only one that stays on is the compression pedal, and I usually don't have like all of them on at once. That's just too much.
Well, but
Yeah,
and
it's
that's what I was
unnecessary,
thinking
too.
is like the pedal board can be a slightly different array in that I don't know how many pedals you would ever actually really have on
It
at one
is-
time.
It is depends on the guitar.
I used to use so many until I just learned and got better from
Well, I was gonna ask, is
listening
that
to
'cause
some
you
of the
needed
older
so
guys.
many, or was it just bad technique at the time?
It was
You know what
bad
I mean? Like-
technique. I think the better practice is less is more in this case.
Yeah. Right.
And if you want to have a separate distorted channel, a slightly less distorted channel, a clean channel, it's best to get a good amp that has that option.
Yeah.
And you switch between the channels on the and within the amp. It'll be way cleaner. It'll usually just sound a lot better. Right. And if you want a little extra oomph, get a little distortion pedal, and you can add in a little bit here and there. But you shouldn't be really relying on only distortion pedals to give you only your distortion tones.
I do.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Because you still use a little bit of a gain on your clean. Your signal is nice and strong.
Yes.
But
It's my clean channel.
when you're
on my
using them
Fender.
for the super color, like the super distorted, like metal type sounds, you're using them there. But even when your clean channel is when you're playing completely clean, there's still this like a walkiness to it. There's still distortion on there. It's just tastefully used. It's not overdone. It's not overdriven.
From my clean stage on my guitar, and I don't have I do have a distortion channel on that guitar separate,
Right.
which also has a boost channel, but I typically don't use those. I typically just use my I have it's a Wampler distortion pedal called the Dracaris. It's got like a 3-band EQ on it. But my clean signal is slightly distorted through just my settings on the amplifier.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
And then so when you want to add to that, because you're adding to that signal at that
I
point,
hit
you're
the-
not.
hit the distortion on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's a better practice. It's going to give you a better sound, going to keep it clean, especially when you're using that isolated power like you mentioned.
Bingo, bango.
Yeah.
Well, isolated power
So-
by itself is going to resolve a lot of
DAWs.
noise and issues, right, and mishaps.
This is in the analog world, right? You're not going to need those as much in the digital world because that's going to be done in your digital audio interface.
If you want to, you can still record your good analog sound and just put a mic on that and capture that. But you can also do DI nowadays in the digital world.
Actually,
and
a lot of-
emulate a lot of really good tones, both for guitar or really any effect.
guitar analog purists. There are many of us, even now, as practical musicians, who are getting rid of our amps because we do not want to carry them to shows. We are using amp emulation pedals.
And some dudes would say it's because we're getting old. And there's
Yeah.
probably truth to that.
There's
but it doesn't mean we're wrong.
There's probably truth to that, but I will say if you're a hobbyist who is telling me that I'm wrong and I shouldn't do it and it doesn't sound as good, you're right about all those things. I don't care.
Yeah, tools, not rules. It's a matter of personal preference.
I have probably played more shows than you and had to carry my stuff to more locations, and I get tired of doing that, and I'm getting old and I don't want to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and use technology and take just an ambulation pedal, which I have, on my pedal board with my guitars to shows. I can fit all of that in like 1 or 2 bags when I travel.
The only valid argument I've heard of it actually sounding better is the way an analog tube
It's warm.
wears.
Yeah.
That's the only.
Yes.
And that's because
After time, they
other
wear out
amp
and they
sound,
still give it a
I mean, like, any other
quality
amp
you can't
sound,
get.
You know,
You
it sounds
can't
exactly the same.
emulate
It
it.
sounds just as good. The only thing I've actually heard a valid argument is there's a certain sound to brand new tubes. There's a certain sound to like seasoned worn, but not worn out, but like they wear a certain way.
Yeah.
worn in.
Those, okay, you're right. I can get it that, but other than that, no, man, I disagree. If you're a hobbyist and you're arguing that, you're not right. You're wrong. and I still don't care, but you're wrong. I just want to make sure we clarify you're wrong. You're not
Damn,
right.
he's taking a stance. So we talked about the art of capturing the sound, and now what do we do with it once it's captured? And by captured, we do not mean tape. If you want to do that and have fun, then we're not going to mess with that. We're talking about capturing it onto our computer in the digital world. What do we do with it after that, boys?
That is our digital tape of speech.
We do so much after that.
Well, let's before we talk about what we're doing after, right? Let's think about then everything that we truly have gone over, because the essence of why the analog is important is because that's where you're starting from. Everything you're doing in the digital world is truly a replication of the analog world in its best ability, right? Things like quantization errors and things like that should be enough to let you know there is no perfect conversion, right? Nothing perfect.
Right.
No language perfectly translates to another language, right? This doesn't perfectly translate from analog to digital, but within our DAW, we adjust for our inherent errors or flaws the same way we did for analog, right? Distortion was the thing that we could actually get more of and push a certain way in analog that we inversely had to pull out. But at the same time, what do? There was something that happened that we did not plan for, and we adjusted to it accordingly to get what we did want. Whether it was up or down, putting more in, additive, or taking more out, subtractive, we were making an adjustment. So and that's what I really want to hound on first. Like, now that we're in the DAW, you're simply looking at the software version or the digital version of everything we've already talked about.
And when we say DAW, I just want to emphasize that as a digital audio workstation, and there are a lot of those.
Yeah.
Name off a few. I'm going to rattle them off here pretty quickly. Like GarageBand. That's the simplest DAW that Apple makes. It's
Logic
free.
Light.
It's Logic.
That's exactly what it is.
It is Logic Pro Lite, which is what we typically tend to use here. We're Logic Pro people. Ableton.
I got a picture of that. Let's pull it up and take a look at its interface. Ableton is a really great one.
I'm trying to make the switch to Ableton because of reasons I won't get into, but
right. When he says because of reasons, he's not talking about the other digital audio workstation called Reasons, which I don't have a picture of that up here. Haven't really used that much. Public Media Network uses a free one that's very good, actually, Audacity. Audacity's layout, I just recently downloaded the most current version of it just to check it out, and it felt very much like Adobe Audition. Adobe makes one, too.
Let's hold up. Let's kind of walk this down through through the history, right? Because if you kind of walk through DAWs and what they started out as, I want to say like Cakewalker or one of those were actually one of the original free ones. Or like
let's go back and talk about the very first one that really like took the industry into the digital world.
I'm not sure which was the very first one.
Pro Tools.
And that's why Pro Tools is still around. That's why it's still the industry standard.
I was going to say, so see, Pro Tools, there were DAWs around before Pro Tools. Pro Tools became the industry standard. Right. And that's what I mean by let's kind of walk it back. Is there was when we first step into audio interfaces, audio workstations here, the first digital audio workstations were designed by computer users who wanted to do audio.
Exactly.
Right? Those were actually the first ones. And so by that saying, the interface you interacted with when you're actually looking at your computer screen and now you're interacting with the software, the interface of that software was designed, and it were certain things about it that you could tell this was designed by computer programmers.
They weren't
computer
designed
users.
by audio engineers.
Audio engineers, producers,
Right.
things of that
Correct.
nature. As it progresses, right, and things are coming out, you get Pro Tools comes out, and you can tell this is the first one that had, and it wasn't even designed by audio engineers and producers. It just had the most audio engineer and true industry production,
Right.
right?
Yeah, it's something that made sense to an actual audio engineer when they look at it. Yeah.
Well, so that's the reason I was backing that down is because, right, when we think about what actually made all these things popular, Pro Tools got popular because of its multi-tracking platform and the ability to basically just be a straight digital tape machine, right? It felt like tape to producers who were used to using it. We do like that. When you think of Fruity Loop Studios, what it actually brought in is what a lot of us.
I got a picture of Fruity Loop Studios. Let's bring this up.
Let's pull that up.
So now, what actually made Fruity Loops so popular is actually the sequencer.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what Fruity Loops brings to the game, and they hold on to it for so
You
long.
want to highlight over what that sequencer is so people can see it?
Yep, you want to.
That's this guy right here.
And so, and there are people who may have never used Fruity Loops, and you may have used some sort of digital audio workstation that you've seen something like that, because Logic has it now, right? The same thing, right? You evolve a little bit further. What made Reasons its popularity? Reasons was not doing anything better than any DAW that comes on the scene, but they were the first on a large commercially backed level to make their entire digital interface as up to that point as perfect of a replication of the actual analog gear all the audio engineers knew. This is a Neve. This is an Avalon tube. Like, it's the control. They intentionally did animation and image artwork to make it look like it. Flip it around, you got patch bays on the back. You're the same rig and the same
starting
way
to
you're
make
literally
sense to
doing
us.
it is what you're doing as an operation in the software. That's what made Reasons really blow up, right? I mean, at the time, plugins and things are happening with sound and instruments, but these are the things that are actually changing the game of digital audio workstation. This is why people are picking one over the other, right?
Correct.
And then now we evolve into then they start conglomerating ideas. So by this time now you've got I think it's not Audacity, because Audacity is more for like, has always been for like capturing
Google makes that.
broadcasting.
Yeah.
But who owned, before Adobe bought Audition?
Oh.
Oh.
Way back.
Oh God, I have no idea.
I don't even remember either.
Let's go. I got a picture of
I'm
Adobe.
so mad. I think it was called like Cool Edit.
Maybe.
Cool Edit? I don't remember that.
No, like I'm pretty sure like the name of the software by the company, their software was called Cool Edit. That is what later Adobe will buy that company and convert it and call it into
really?
Adobe Audition. And it had another name change after Cool Edit, because I used that like back in like high school.
Speaking of Audition, I just want to say something about Audition real quick. Now, all of these, there's not one preferred over the other. We have preferences. There's not one that's necessarily better than all the rest. It's a matter of personal preference.
Well, so at this stage in the game.
But when it comes to Adobe Audition, its built-in wave editor is the best on the market you're going to find. And this is a good picture of it right down here. Not only can you edit like in the linear time, the frequency over time domain or amplitude over time domain like we see here, but it also allows you to edit in the frequency over time domain, and you can do a lot of really interesting things when it comes to spectral processing. You can clean up dirty audio very easily, and this has been there before spectral processing kind of got into all the other DAWs, and it's the best one. You can literally color. See how there's these colors with intensity? If you wanted to quiet that out, if you've ever used Photoshop back in the day, there's an eraser just like that, and you can erase those colors.
I think it's important,
which takes out those
point,
frequencies.
Especially thinking about the fact that Adobe Audition added that spectral processing, is that even that is a new concept, right? And that was kind of what I was leading to, is that, so these are the originals, and it did matter at the time. It did matter what DAW you had,
which one you did,
because besides the fact that you only had a sequencer or you only had a this, at that time it was a lot more heavily like people knew, producers knew, only this software has this specific set of drum beats or samples, or this specific kind of string sounds that are actually done high quality over blah, 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 blah. So at that time it was. Then they started, missing, copyrights start going by, and now you start seeing these fusions of now these big multi-conglomerate DAWs that I call them now, where it's like, look at Logic now.
Yeah, it's got
like
all that.
Ableton comes on the scene because of its actual packaging.
Yeah,
and
look at
interface
Ableton
and
Live.
sessions.
That's a perfect example.
But Ableton Live Squares finally is
Let's
now
go to a
right in
picture of
Logic.
Ableton.
Guess what also is finally right in Logic? Fruity Loops Sequencer.
Right.
Yeah,
Whereas
exactly.
before they actually hid it in their ultra beat sampler, right, in a way, but it still wasn't a sequencer.
No.
It was tacked on.
Nearly
It wasn't
as,
really
as
integrated very
intricate
well.
and as useful as
And-
the Fruity Loop sequencer, right? But that was copywritten, right? So you have all these things coming. Audition brings the Spectral game. You got
One of the
Isotope
thing-
added
and-
as a plugin
exactly.
first, and then now Audition puts it in a DAW. Right, that's what I think is like. You can see the difference. Audition is mainly used for audio for film. Spectral processing to that intricacy level is done a lot more, I find, in audio for film than any audio for music.
Yeah, because you got to clean up your.
You know what I'm
you
saying?
gotta
And
clean up all
so,
the-
so now the DAW that's used by filmmakers has spectral processing now part of the DAW, whereas before, first off, it didn't even exist, and then when it did exist, it was as an external third-party plugin.
Right.
You had to pay a nice little pretty penny for it, right? So we see these evolutions in our digital audio workstations as people see what are producers really using, why do we really want the
exactly.
thing, and then they find a way to grab that, slide
And-
it into their project, put it into their
So very
product.
good point. As musicians, we tend to lean towards Logic Pro and Ableton, right?
Right.
Not to say anything bad about Fruity Loop Studio. That's great, but
I started out in FL Studio.
I started off in Cakewalk Sonar,
Yeah, I used that for a while too.
which I don't know if they still-
Sonar, that was the name I heard.
Sonar.
Sonar was there in the beginning with Fruity Loops. Like that's
Yeah.
one of those early names.
Yeah,
Yep.
and they were really good at setting up an interface. Well, they were really good at crashing.
That's true. That's why I stopped using it.
But they
were
also
really
had
good at
really
crashing.
intuitive software that did look exactly like the analog hardware. And when we were
Right.
recording the waveform, it was really intuitive layout for
Yeah.
bands to pick up on. And multi-track on
Sonar
your own.
is now a browser DAW.
Yeah.
It's exclusively a browser DAW.
That's that.
Remember we were trying to play around with that one time.
I could 100%
Didn't really work out.
see that. Yeah, see that being
Just to shout out to a couple of other studios that we haven't mentioned, right? Sony still has Acid,
Oh yeah.
believe it or not.
Wow.
Reaper is a program you can download for free, but it is not free, right? They won't
Mm-hmm.
charge you, but they'll tell you you've been using it free for so many days, make a donation.
Well, a lot of them will do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Studio One by Presonus
Mm-hmm.
is a new DAW that a lot of people are using because it's subscription based. You don't have to spend $200 or more on a DAW for it to get going. You can just do that.
Can we? What is? Gosh, is anybody else through with this model
I
of
don't-
business?
I really don't love subscription
very
models
much is.
either.
Bro, charge
I
me
very much am.
$250 and get out of my wallet, bro. Like, I'm done. I don't even want to talk to you anymore. What is this? Sorry, I hate the
Well,
subscription.
there's a
model.
reason for that. There's a
So they can
Before-
take
before
more
we
of our
segue
money.
into
I know
that
the
one,
reason for that.
because we're running short on time here, fellas.
okay.
I want to get us to pull up Logic Pro really quickly because
already got it.
that's the one that we've got, and we're gonna
This is the one that we use a lot.
we're gonna
actually.
switch to Queen's computer here. And what you're seeing currently is
We are a company endorsing Apple Logic.
We're not endorsing.
I wouldn't say we're
This is just what we use a lot because
we're not
it
getting
costs
paid.
$200 and
This
it's
is
great.
What we use. It is great
Easy to use.
software. It's easy to use.
Fine, guys,
you're-
I won't endorse
What
them.
you're seeing right here at the bottom is the mixer view of where those levels are at, and then you're seeing actual wave files of multi-tracked drums currently.
A little bit
in
more
our
of that
project
mixer view.
file.
Let's pull that up. We actually have. It looks literally like a full mixer. You have your effects that are going into your chain before they start going through the rest of the fader. You have options to group them together. You have options to send them to a bus. These are all drums, so they're going to this little drum bus I made over here. Now, that being said, when we were talking about quantization here, check this out. We can actually see it in the DAW itself when we zoom all the way. There we go. I got a little bit of a.
You might want to.
Let me find like a good
magnify those
fat
waveforms. There you
wave
go.
file. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to also expand it a little bit. Like, oops, hang on. There's the button. There we go. We're going to zoom all the way in. Look, you can actually see the sample rate and the bit depth. You can literally. Can you guys see it in there?
Yeah.
Where do you see the bit depth? Where would you get an
The
actual
little,
depiction of it?
It's the amplitude.
Yeah.
The amplitude itself is the different bit depths, which when we recorded this, it was at 32 bits.
Well, okay. I thought you meant you were able to see because
Yeah, can't you see it's all squared off?
Oh, that's what I was looking for was for
Yeah.
squaring. So maybe I'm just further with my eyes.
It's really
are,
fun.
are rounding them
It's
squares
very- yeah.
off. So,
We probably can't see it on that thing, but I can certainly see. They'll be able to see it at home.
Yeah.
So okay, yeah, that's what I was hoping that was what they were able to see is the actual point and hold.
The sample hold rate, yeah. And No and. I don't know.
Okay,
I have
so-
nothing to say.
I'm glad you have no and there, because there are a couple of things that I want to bring up as we're touching base, because we're going to have to talk about DAWs and what you do. And yeah.
And
No, I have no and. I just want to follow Queen too.
Right. What you're looking at there is Queen has a project file of something that he's already recorded and created there, right? He's already created tracks within that DAW to capture the audio. The other things that you can do within that digital audio workstation just to get started is you're going to you determine what kind of track you're going to create after you've created your project file, right? Are you going to create a software instrument track, which is basically
let's make a software instrument track.
bingo. It's just a piece of software.
Are we? I don't think we have. I don't think we're seeing what you're doing.
No, not yet.
Oh, okay. Copy that. I didn't know if we were supposed to. Okay.
Let's get into Queen's computer really quickly and zoom into that if we can. He is loading plugins right now. You see,
There we go.
The drop downs he's got are already audio tracks. He's already created those, and he's captured that with microphones.
Yes.
Now he's created a software instrument track, which is.
I don't have a MIDI controller. I should have brought that.
We don't have a MIDI controller. That's fine. But what it's doing, it is emulating.
Press K on the keyboard. Press K on the keyboard.
Oh yeah.
When you select
It
your MIDI
is
instrument, it'll pop up.
emulating virtually an instrument, and that is Absinthe right there, which is additive synthesis software. So you basically manipulate the waveform to create the sound that's going to come out, and you can see the piano down there. You would usually hook up a MIDI controller that is set up like a piano and manipulate the sound waves through that with a software instrument, in addition to the actual audio track that you're getting. You can also drop in actual samples in there too. You can just put in a wave
depending
file.
on what we're working in, right?
Bingo.
Because I will find, I think now we're kind of branching a little bit into plugins, right? We basically essentially within the world of DAW, something.
There we
is
go.
happening in my ear.
Now we got stuff happening.
There you
Okay. But essentially, right, there is we're talking about different types of plugins now at that point. And so if you have a plugin that either is marketed as or also contains the functionality of a sampler,
Right.
you can drag and drop and use and transfer, different samples
Bingo.
and things. But there are certain synthesizers, you will find synthesizers, they are not sampling anything, right? They are taking whatever waveform, they'll take you've usually got a couple different wave options. So you've got a sine wave, which is our continuous curve. You've got a square wave, which is just blunted off. And then you've got a saw wave, exactly, which is our linear to a point wave. But so you usually have some sort of basic wave shape you get to begin playing with. But it really doesn't do anything with any samples at all. It's just taking that waveform, and then everything we're doing is creating with our either a fusion, multiplication, or division of waveforms and different characteristics like that.
That's basically a really high level overview of the things that you can do in digital audio workstations, and we're going to get into depth more on those plugins, on the things that are unique to each one, like Maxim XP for Ableton, where you can actually.
That's not a DAW though. That's actually
but it's part of the DAW.
Well, the reason why.
Add-on.
So what Maxim SP is, it's the coding language that was used to create Ableton Live in the first place.
Yeah.
It is if anybody knows anything about coding, there's something called object-oriented coding languages. JavaScript is one of the most basic examples.
Yep.
But this one, instead of having lines of code, they made this to make sense to a musician.
Yeah.
So they made it with a graphic user interface where instead of lines of code, you have a box. In this box, you tell it what type of object it is. Then you literally draw and plug cables into each other, because that's what makes sense to our musician brains,
Right, yeah.
our audio engineer brains. They used it to create Ableton Live. Years later, Ableton Live made this super awesome, robust digital audio workstation, and they ended up buying the company that makes Maxim SP, and then just pouring money into it. So in some cases, subscriptions are a good thing because they started charging a subscription.
Yeah.
They've able to beef that thing up into almost virtually a DAW itself. You can build your own DAW on it.
But
you can not only make your own audio programs, but programs in general. They're just the sky's the limit with that. But it's integrated fully into Ableton Live too, which is the only reason why I would still use Ableton Live for any reason. I mean, I like Ableton Live, period, but that's the one thing it has over every other DAW.
That's what it brought to the game, was that object-oriented
Logic has
interface.
the Smart Drummer. There are a lot of third-party programs you can get that
pull
do
up one of
something
them.
similar to those. But we're really short on time here, fellas.
That's all right. We've done this before.
All right.
Do we have much more left?
No.
We're going to add in a drummer track.
Right.
And we won't go too much into that, I guess, but it's a really great way. You don't necessarily have to have samples. But Logic Pro does have a library of samples, both MIDI samples that you can use and audio samples, but they also have this really cool thing. What do you guys feel about this thing? What do you know about it?
I love the Logic Pro drummer because I do not know how to play drums myself. It is an arduous task to actually program your beats, for me as a person who's not a percussive, native.
Right.
My instruments are strings. Oh, geez.
Turn off that metronome. Go ahead.
But I can immediately just, boom, have a real simple drum track to get the idea of a song that I'm writing.
You want a little more complex? There's a grid for that.
Depending on genre, I like the drummer. If I'm writing something that is going to be usually
Change some dials
a
and it
song
changes it
performed
around.
by a band or actual instruments or something of like live acoustic instruments, I don't mind the drummer to start to give me an idea of a cadence.
Yeah.
But I like writing percussive parts. So it's like in general, I will write them on my own. But I do use it.
Yeah.
I do use it.
I typically don't write it very often, or I will often use the follow feature where it analyzes the transients in the guitar wave to follow whatever I'm trying to get it to follow.
Was that
Queen's just making
that's
noise.
a fantastic feature.
Well, I'm showing examples. I'm showing an example of how you would walk through this thing.
Yeah. Well, I want to give some detail, into that a little bit more in some upcoming episodes. We'll do, just an episode on the Logic Pro drummer potentially. I don't want to commit to saying actually we're definitely doing that episode right now.
Or maybe that's Patreon content if somebody
could
wants
be.
more in depth, right? If we would like a run through of like what are some ways to maximize the drummer track or utilize some special features.
Yep.
That might be a Patreon.
And our
episode.
Patreon is coming. It is not live yet.
Coming soon.
Yeah, we're still in the process of getting that going, but we're very close to getting that launched so folks can donate when they need to. I'm going to go ahead and take us out here really quickly, but before we do that, Queen wants to give a shout out to a homie, and then we'll.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yep, and then we'll walk it out.
So this is mostly for my friends and family back home in Muncie, Indiana. But I just have a really good story I wanted to share with everybody here.
It is tragic, so.
It's tragic, but it ultimately has some closure as of yesterday. I've got this friend of mine. His name was Joe Miner Jr. I've known him since he was a small kid. I used to ride the bus home from work, and he was also on that same bus. And I just noticed that this kid is wearing like Metallica shirts and like old school, like Iron Maiden shirts. And this at a time, it kind of struck me, right? Because nobody was listening to any of that kind of music at the time. And I was like, well, who's this down kid right here? So I started talking to him. And while we would be riding home on the bus all the time, we'd hit it off. I'd tell him some guitar tips and tricks. He was just learning at the time, too. And at the same time, I used to go and hang out at this bar, and there was this old man. He was a little bit older than me, but he was playing Metallica on the jukebox one day, and I noticed when he was air guitaring, he was accurate in the way he was doing it. So we got to talking, and we became friends. Then years later, I joined Revelation 13, and I show up for my very first concert, right? It was like hundreds and hundreds of people at the Water Bowl, big, huge music festival, and I'm in the headlining act. This is the first thing I've ever done anything this big. A little bit nervous, but when I get there, the first people I see and I recognize is that guy from the bar. I was like, hey, what are you doing here, man? He's like, oh, I just brought my son. He wanted to come see his favorite band, Revelation 13. I'm like, bro, I'm the new guy. Tonight's my first show. Who's your son? I'll let him meet the band. Bring him in. And it's this kid. So we've been really good friends ever since. He was a staple of the local Muncie scene. He was just like a true fan. He'd show up for everything.
Yeah.
He would just support everybody. Really cool kid.
An enthusiast.
3 years ago, on his birthday, I believe it was his 21st birthday, actually, but the night of his birthday, he gets off work, he worked at Walmart, he was walking home, and somebody hit him and ran. He laid there for 90 minutes before somebody else came and called the police. He died a few hours later in the hospital. And right when that happened, just several days later, is when Revelation 13 got back together for a reunion concert where I had actually talked to him a little bit on social media about that beforehand. He was like, you guys are going to get back together? Are you going to play with them? Yeah. Dude, when is it? I'm coming. I'm totally coming, man. Right. He was like excited. Definitely would have been there, but a few days earlier, he got hit and run and killed. And the guy ran off. Nobody ever thought we'd ever figure that out. Yesterday, they arrested him. They announced in the Muncie Star Press that they found the guy, and his name was Mitchell J. Masterson of Eaton, Indiana. Yeah, and he was also somebody who I believe my nephew went to school with, by the way, because he went to the same school. He was out in Eaton, Indiana, and everything.
I truly, one, it is truly tragic for any loss of life. I don't care what anybody says.
Right.
I'm not one of those like, well, God wanted another rose for his bouquet. God does love us, but I'm pretty sure he's not picking us off for roses in his bouquet. So I have to say,
Right.
I hate when I hear stuff like
No,
that.
I agree for 100%.
But I gotta be I get so curious when I hear about stuff like that, and you just like that person ran off, and it's like, how did you find them 3 years later? If the first 48 is so crucial,
Actually,
how did you find them?
the article explains.
The article explains that there was, some talk amongst friends. He did admit it to a couple of.
He got
other
drunk
people.
a few nights and he slipped up, and then
also
the police also found the car.
He said that he hit a deer as the reason why the car had damage. He went into an auto shop a few days later, and they were able to corroborate that along with other witness testimonies to actually find the man and then charge him for what he did. So it's a tragic story.
But at least we got closure. Shout out to him. By the way, his name was Joe Miner Jr. And so that dad of his.
7, it looked like the article said.
Oh, so it definitely wasn't his 21st birthday. But I know it was his birthday when it happened. So his dad, of course, is Joe Miner. Shout out to both of them. Rest in peace. And I'm glad you and the family and all of the friends that Joe had, which were many, all over Muncie. I myself was definitely one of them. We all have closure now.
Yep.
Glad you're able to find that closure after all of this time. And
Right.
We definitely thank you for sharing that intimate story there, Queen. Not everyone's ready to come forward with tragic loss like that. I'm gonna take us out here.
One last thing. His dad sent me so they found near where he was found a guitar pick with John 5 signature on it. And it was his pick. He was like his favorite one. Oh. It had just been found after when they were cleaning up the crash site. They gave it back to his dad, and his dad mailed it to me.
Oh, damn.
As a keepsake for him.
Darn is what I said.
I'm glad that you got that to remember him by, at least.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. He told me, he's like, I want you to play with that. I was like, I will play a guitar when I'm practicing with this, but I'm keeping this in the safe.
Or framing it or something right now.
Too easy to lose, for sure.
Yeah.
The one pick you don't want the abyss to eat because it eats all.
Yeah,
for sure. My house is an abyss. An abyss.
An abyss.
And that's how you know the show has gone on long enough.
I think it's about time to call it right there.
All right, thanks everybody else for tuning in this week. We're going to get into a lot more of this stuff in depth in the coming weeks and coming episodes. This is another episode of Try This at Home. We out.
All right.
That's for all of your dad jokes.
Yeah. You get
one moment.
You get dad jokes. We get that.
I haven't done any dad jokes on it.
You did them. You did at least 2 in the break room, and then you tagged in Lucian. You tagged him in.
I'm gonna tell. This is a post Patreon dad joke right here. I'm
gonna put on the headphones for this.
When I slap both of you with a high hertz.
When I slap both
of you with a high frequency, you're gonna be like, it hurts.
Oh my God. No, that's it. I'm done. I'm calling the police.